Good morning, 5th grade. We're going to continue reading Chapter 10 in Esperanza Rising. Before we get started, we have a quick write. It says, have you ever been paid for doing a job? What job did you do? Why did you do it? And how did you feel after you got paid? Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the focus question. It says, how did Esperanza respond to challenge? What do her feelings, actions, sayings, and thoughts reveal about her as a person? Vocabulary words for today are charity. That's when you help someone in need, usually by giving them money. Cavernous, that is a really large empty space, kind of like this warehouse is cavernous. And frigid, very cold temperatures. Alright, as we're reading, we want to underline Esperanza's feelings, actions, sayings, and thoughts. The fields frosted over, and Mama began to have trouble breathing. The doctor came in again with worse news. She should be in the hospital. She's very weak, but more than that, she's depressed and needs nursing around the clock if she is to get stronger. It is a country hospital, so you would not have to pay except for doctor bills and medicines. Esperanza shook her head no. The hospital is where people go to die. She began to cry. All right? So she's shaking her head no. She says that people are going to go there to die. And we know she's crying, which tells us a little bit about how she's feeling. She feels sad. Isabel ran to her crying too. Hortensia walked over and folded them both into her arms. No, she's going to the hospital to get better. Hortensia wrapped Mama in blankets, and Alfonso drove them to Kern General Hospital in Bakersfield. The nurses would let Esperanza stay with Mama only a few minutes. And when Esperanza kissed her goodbye, Mama didn't say a word, but just shut her eyes and drifted into sleep. Okay, so we know Esperanza kissed her goodbye, but she could only stay with Mama for a few minutes once she got to the hospital. Riding home in the truck that evening, Esperanza stared straight into the alley of light made from the truck's headlamps, feeling as if she were in a trance. Okay. So she's staring off into space. She feels like she's in a trance. Hortensia, what did the doctor mean when he said Mama was depressed? What's it saying? In only a few months, she lost her husband, her home, her money, and she's separated from her mother. It's a lot of strain on her body to cope with so many emotions in such a short time. Sometimes sadness and worry can make a person sicker. Your mother was very strong through your father's death and her journey here, for you. And when she got sick, everything became too much for her. Think about how helpless she must feel. Hortensia took her handkerchief and blew her nose, too upset to continue. Esperanza felt like she had failed Mama in some way and wanted to make it up to her. It's a feeling. Make sure you have that underlined. Mama had been strong for her. Now it was her turn to be strong for Mama. She must show her she didn't need to worry anymore. Okay, and that's a thought. But how? Abuelita, I must write to Abuelita. Hortensia shook her head. I'm sure your uncles are still watching everything that goes in and out of the convent, and probably the post office too. But maybe we can find someone going to Aguas Calientes who can carry a letter. I have to do something, said Esperanza, holding back tears. Hortensia put her arm around Esperanza. Don't worry, she said. The doctors and nurses know what she needs, and we will take care of one another. Esperanza didn't say what she really thought, and what Mama really needed was Abuelita. Okay, that's a thought. Because if sadness was making Mama sicker, then maybe some happiness would make her better. She just had to figure out a way to get her here. Okay, that's a thought. She's thinking, how is she going to get Abuelita to the United States? When she got back to camp, she went behind the cabin to pray in front of the washtub grotto. Someone had knit a shawl and draped it around Our Lady's shoulders, and the sweetness of the gesture made Esperanza cry. "Please," she said through her tears, "I promised Abuelita I would take care of Mama. Show me how I can help her." All right? And then another action is that she went behind the wash tub to pray. All right, so we're going to keep reading the next section, but you can take a moment to jot down some things about Esperanza. Just make sure that you leave enough space. So we know Esperanza, checked her mother into the hospital, and she wasn't able to stay long. And she was feeling really sad about it because she was crying, and she keeps asking Hortensia, what can she do? What can she do? And now she's thinking that she needs to get Abuelita to the United States to make Mama better. Okay? So you can press pause to jot down some of your thoughts and then play when you're ready to keep reading. The next day, Esperanza pulled a heavy shawl around her shoulders and waited for Miguel to come home from the fields. She paced in the area where the trucks unloaded and wrapped the wool tighter against the early winter cold. She had been thinking all day about what to do. Ever since Mama had first become sick over a month ago, they had no money coming in. The doctor's bills and medicines had used up most of what they'd saved, and now there were more bills. Alfonso and Hortensia offered to help, but they had done so much already that they did not have much to spare. Besides, she could not accept their charity forever. Okay, that's a thought she's having. Abuelita's ankle was probably healed by now, but if she hadn't been able to get her money out of Tio Luis's bank, then she would have no money with which to travel. If Esperanza could get money to Abuelita, then maybe she could come sooner. All right, that's another thought she's having. When Miguel jumped off one of the trucks, she called to him. "What have I done to deserve this honor, mi reina?" he said, smiling and walking toward her. "Please, Miguel, no teasing. I need help. I need to work so I can bring Abuelita to Mama." All right? Make sure you have that underlined. It's an important saying. He was quiet, and Esperanza could tell he was thinking. But what could you do? And who would take care of the babies? I could work in the fields or the sheds, and Melina and Irene have already offered to watch Pepe and Lupe. It's only men in the fields right now, and you're not old enough to work in the sheds. I am tall. I'll wear my hair up. They won't know. The problem is that it's the wrong time of year. They aren't packing anything right now. Not until asparagus in the spring. My mother and Josefina are going to cut potato eyes for the next 3 weeks. Maybe you can go with them. But it is just 3 weeks, said Esperanza. I need more work than that. Anza, if you're good at cutting potato eyes, they'll hire you to tie grapes. If you're good at tying grapes, then they'll hire you for asparagus. That's how it works. If you're good at one thing, they'll hire you for another. She nodded. Can you tell me one more thing, Miguel? Claro, certainly. What are potato eyes? Okay, and this is it's funny now because it's more evidence that Esperanza is naive. She keeps gaining experience in different things, but she definitely doesn't have any experience working in the field. So she doesn't even know the kind of work that she's about to start doing. All right, so if we go back, we know we have some more thoughts and sayings of Esperanza, and Esperanza is thinking that if she can get a job, she can save up money to send to Abuelita, so that Abuelita can come home sooner for Mama. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to keep. Well, I think we'll save that for Monday. All right? And so now, how does Esperanza respond to challenge? What do her feelings, actions, sayings, and thoughts reveal about her as a person? And so we want to think about this challenge of Mama getting checked into the hospital and no money coming in because Mama can't work. How does Esperanza respond to that? And what does that tell you about who she is as a person?